Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my story of how I got diagnosed. I know I have discussed this on the channel before, but I decided to go back in time today because it's been over 10 years since I shared the full story and my experience, and I think it's interesting for me to look back on that now. Before we get started, I want to share with you all the sponsor of today's video, Abridge. As you can see, Abridge got a new logo design and just all around makeover. Abridge can be especially useful during this time with all the craziness from coronavirus. Many of you might be experiencing either canceled appointments or you're going in to the doctor but you can't bring anyone with you. Having an extra ear is always helpful and it's a supportive feeling. It's something that I would even do now, being a 27-year-old, but with Abridge, you have the option to have your phone with you, ask your doctor whether you can record the conversation, and then it picks up the key points and you're able to take it home and show your parents or your loved one what the doctor said that day. It's also great because I have brain fog myself, so I like to recall what happened in my appointments. Again, it is free. Go ahead, download it now, and let me know how it is. Getting into the story of my diagnosis. I was diagnosed in March of 2008. Basically, during that time, I was 14, pretty young, wasn't expecting it at all. During this time, I was a 9th grader and I was really into basketball. I was working my way towards getting a Division I scholarship and just practicing, playing all the time. In the beginning of March, I was actually trying out for a summer travel team. And during this time, I remember it was so important to make this team. And I was really pushing myself and I just couldn't do it. I was having so much trouble. I kept feeling like I was passing out, and I remember just blacking out and still trying to run suicides. Ridiculous, I know. The only thing that stopped me was that I was noticing my hands were turning purple and white. Raynaud's. At the time, I did not know it was Raynaud's. My friend's dad was there and he's a heart doctor, and my parents brought me over to him and had him look, and he was like, oh, I don't know, you should probably go to the hospital. So that night we went to the hospital, and I actually remember sitting in the parking lot, and it was gone at that point because I was warm. If you didn't know, when you play basketball, Raynaud's is really bad, and I experienced that for the rest of the time. Awful. Once we noticed it was gone and I was feeling okay, we actually ended up deciding to just go into the pediatric doctor, primary care physician in the morning. As soon as the doctor examined me, heard the signs and symptoms, and saw my hands, how swollen they were, she immediately said that they were going to refer me to go to a specialist, rheumatologist. I actually have some handy dandy paperwork here where it talks about the actual date and what happened. So basically the day was March 12th, 2008 when I saw the primary care physician. Samantha is a 14-year-old girl who was evaluated by her pediatrician for non-specific muscular aches and pains and discoloration of her hands and fingers. Basically, the breakdown of this note is what my pediatric rheumatologist wrote from the information she got from my PCP and also the blood work. So I tested positive, or had a positive ANA. So that was a telltale sign. The other test that my PCP did was SED rate, and that was 61. So swelling. So from there, I went to my pediatric rheumatologist appointment. And I can remember going in there. Actually, this memory is probably because I went there so much, but I remember going there and just it being very colorful. It was a pediatric facility, so they painted the walls, and it was interesting experience for a 14-year-old. I remember initially the doctor just told me to take off my socks and shoes, and she came in, examined my swelling, made a little chart, and Basically, before she even did the rest of the blood work, she said, okay, it's gonna be one of three things. It's either gonna be rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, or scleroderma. She also said to stay out of the sun, which me and my parents had no idea. We had never heard of these. The only one probably is rheumatoid arthritis. We didn't know what was going on. I could just remember the car ride home and my parents being like, which one do you think it is? And them discussing amongst each other, and just how scary it all was, how sudden. I can even remember being in the car and seeing my arm was in the sun and having to move it out of the way and just thinking, oh my gosh, what is going on? From that point on, I got more blood work done. They actually would do it in the actual facility, which was nice. I didn't have to go get blood work at Quest like I do now. After I got the blood work done, I ended up having a follow-up appointment. And from there, she told me I had lupus. It was very fast, very, very fast, especially for lupus patients. The average is 3 to 6 years. And for me, it took a couple weeks. Some reasonings behind that. Number one, I think that I had lupus for a while before I even noticed it or we even caught on to it. And number two, I also think that my symptoms were so severe at that point. My organs weren't involved, luckily, but my swelling, just all my markers were flying. So my blood work was so extreme that it was like, okay, there's no question at all. She has lupus. Plus the symptoms, I hit the criteria of at least 4 out of the 11. Backtracking before 2008, I do want to mention some key points that it wasn't until after I was diagnosed that I realized, and it took many years for me to remember some of these memories. One of the key points that I remember is going into the shower and looking at my feet, and this was maybe a year before I was diagnosed, and seeing that my feet were completely white. I'm not talking like skin tone white, I'm talking Renaud's white. Look it up, you'll see. And I don't know, I just didn't think anything of it. I never brought it up to anyone, I just kind of dealt with it. I can remember playing basketball and being weaker. I would go for rebounds and I just couldn't do it. And I remember one time, you know, my coaches and my family going, why can't you get the ball? Why? You're big, you know, you used to be strong. And I just remember saying, I can't do it. I don't know why, but I can't. I probably had lupus back then, and I just didn't know it. The last key thing that I remember is back in November of 2007, we were on a basketball trip out of state. I can remember going to sleep one of the nights and saying to the girls, wait until you see in the morning how hard it is for me to get up and basically how much pain I was in. To this day, the fact that I said that, and that was 5 months prior to me being diagnosed. So it's crazy. If you take anything from this, just know if you are going through the diagnosis process that you are not crazy. Your symptoms are there. You feel those symptoms, and sometimes the blood work doesn't agree with you. I know mine did. Mine showed it in plain sight, but I kept pushing the fact that I was actually sick away. I thought I was young. My family thought I was too young. I guess the symptoms were hiding in plain sight even though they were happening. Okay, at this point I can hardly talk, and yeah, I've just been rambling, so I hope you all enjoyed this video and me going back in time. It has been really interesting to think back to that time period in my life, and overall emotions. Overall, I'm really proud of how far I've come, and you know, it's never easy being diagnosed with an illness, let alone when you're a teenager or a child. So for anyone going through this process, no matter your age, we're here to support. So join the team, subscribe, hit that notification button. Don't forget to like this video, and also download a bridge. It's in the description box below. It's free and it's something that I use myself. I think it's awesome and I hope you'll like it too. All right, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.